To further support Scarlet Moon and cash in on great discounts and rewards, follow the link below and support the Scarlet Moon Patreon page.
Hey everybody! So, on August 11th, we have Jupiter moving into Virgo. Alright? And for over a year, okay, so more than 12 months, we're going to have Jupiter gracing this sign. Jupiter is going to be staying in Virgo much longer than it stayed in Leo. Jupiter's going to stay in Virgo from August 11th all the way up until early October 2016. The focus of Jupiter is going to go through a dramatic shift. And that means the climate, the energetic climate of the Earth, the social climate, the business climate, the priority climate is going to shift. It changes everything. Because the sixth sign halfway through is the transition from youth to maturity in terms of the energetic priorities, alright? And that's how we can kind of divide the zodiac up. You know, we've got our Aries, our Taurus. I know you can't see right now. Hold your comments. Don't do the violently Venus retrograde thing. The Cancer and the Leo side on the young side of the zodiac. And we'll talk about that here in a sec. We've got Virgo in the middle. And then over here we'll have Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. Now, Virgo and Pisces are fairly unique. Alright? They are transition signs. They are mutable transition signs. Virgo is the middle, and we have our mature signs here. And then we have the end with Pisces. Pisces is the integration. So, when we look at a maturing influence like this, we've got to look at perhaps, I guess you could say, the age priorities of the zodiac. This is not to say mature or immature is good or bad. I don't want anyone to let themselves feel like I'm talking about, well, a Leo and a Cancer energy is so immature, it's just not... No, I'm not talking like that. Just like I'm not saying that, well, then that obviously means that Sagittarius and Capricorn is much more mature. I'm not opening that discussion because that's not the discussion. Where the energetic priorities of society are going. And we're transitioning into a more mature, okay? Now, if we look at the age, if we wanted to compare them to an age, we easily could, alright? So, basically, when we look at the age, or the mental or emotional and spiritual age of Aries and Taurus, alright, the youngest signs in the zodiac, they would kind of be your, I would say, you know, sort of preteen signs. Now again, hold thoughts. This is not about who is and who is not mature. But it has a lot to do with mentality, and we'll talk a bit about that. Then when we look at Gemini and Cancer, we have the teens. And when we look at Leo, Leo is the beginning, but not the end, of the sort of young adult, okay? Young adult. Alright, so if we're splitting young adult between Leo and Virgo in terms of energetic mentality. Alright, so Leo would be sort of your 20s, early 20s, 20 to 25, 26, around there, so let's say 20 to 26. Virgo would be the sort of transition into 27 to say probably 33, okay? Late 20s, early 30s Virgo. And when we think about human development, mental and human development, there actually are some big age gaps that happen here, okay? And as we get older, those age gaps shrink psychologically and energetically. There is a larger age gap between 27 and 20 than, say, 33 or 34 to 45, which is going to be happening here with the Libras and the Scorpios. We've got 46 to 60. Aquarius would be 61 to 80. And then, again, we have sort of the transition years from there. So 80 plus, something's wrong with my marker here, 80 plus for the Pisces mentality. Really has more to do with priorities. And we can look at this as sort of a societal sense of priorities here. When Jupiter was in Cancer, we were kind of learning how to be responsible, almost like responsible teenagers getting ready for adulthood. And when you think about that, when you think about, the 18 and 19-year-olds in the world, they really do have a lot on their plate. They really do. And so when Jupiter was in Cancer, we were learning all about mutual sharing. All right, so sharing. We were talking about nurturing. Suddenly, the world we called home was expanded. All right, so an expanded sense of home. Back in 2013 to 2014. So let's say Cancer, 2013, 2014. Okay? So when we talk about when Jupiter was in Cancer, the whole focus was on expanding our horizons. Suddenly our territories were growing bigger. We were learning how to further connect to each other as a sense of community. We were giving, we were nurturing. That was what was in being socially responsible, giving of oneself. Cancer energy can be very self-sacrificing. Cancer is known as one of the signs to be considered like a parent, all right? Like the mother aspect of the Zodiac, which is why so many Cancers do make very loving parents. So we have the Cancer energy that we kind of learned how to sort of, okay, it's not this small bubble that I've been in for the last few years. I'm kind of getting out of the sandbox. Cancer is kind of, it's the 18, 19, 20-year-olds learning how to be adults. And as all of us, in our own way, we're learning how to be adults or more mature in our own way through that Cancer energy, through interaction with others. When you think about 18, 19, 20-year-olds, whether they're moving out of the house, either to go live in a dormitory or halls of residence, or they're going to live on their own, get an apartment. They've got to learn about a lot of things. They're learning about sharing territory with roommates. They're sharing, they're learning how to take care of their own bills. They're learning how to, to distribute resources evenly, work on a team. And that was a big focus of 2013, 2014. A lot of collaborative energy. I got new pens because I don't know if you can see them. I'll have to check the video later. So we have a lot of collaborative energy going on with the Jupiter in Cancer that was going on. Jupiter in Leo, all right, this was 2014 to now, to 2015, and Jupiter in Leo changed its focus, and so again, we're thinking a bit more, again, with that age mentality of the 21 to 25-year-old, 26-year-old, instead of what about we, with the Cancer, now there's what about me. So we'll do celebration of self. Leo is all about learning to recognize the self. Self-love. Okay, self-appreciation. Love for your own uniqueness. Personality. It also talked a lot about individualism. Okay? So with Jupiter in Leo, we kind of did, and we really did see a great deal of people kind of having their interests or their concerns become more inwardly focused. You know, it's not about people going out of their way to find the I in team, but we definitely saw people perhaps looking less for the team. And there could be good reasons in growth for that. You know, again, individualism, independence. When you think about that age range, that age group, it is all a little bit more about personal gratification. And that makes a lot of sense. You're trying to make your mark on the world, you're trying to kind of cultivate your own adult personality, individualized from everybody else. There may be some hints of rebellion, maybe some selfish tendencies, and a lot of that is very Leo. When Jupiter goes into Virgo, the shift changes, alright? And the focus changes again to mutualism, but in a different way than Cancer. Alright? Virgo is I guess you could say the middle child of the Zodiac. Virgo has a keen sense of justice and injustice, a keen sense of fairness. And so we talk about mutualism, there's going to be a big focus on equality, you know, with Jupiter going into Virgo. You know, and we've kind of seen that transition kind of happen. Once Jupiter got into the last few degrees of Leo and started, you know, became technically a Virgo cusp Jupiter, we started to see that happening. Marriage equality was legalized in the States. You know, a lot of laws are getting overturned. And because Leo was shining a light on these causes, Leo was drawing attention on these causes, the Virgo energy of mutualism was saying, no, you're right, let's push on equality here. Let's equalize. You know, everything has to be fair. But we also have a great deal of focus on intelligence or intellect. Okay? Right now, in the United States, a lot of people are starting to talk about how do we start making college and university more affordable for people. Finally. You know, we need to educate ourselves. We need to become more effective. The blinders are coming off and we're focusing on global intelligence. There's going to be a lot in the way of correction, okay? Correction. And when I say correction, I don't mean anything scary here, okay? But when I say correction / responsibility, things that did not work, policies, attitudes, ideas, things that are clearly not working. Virgo is a very technical sign. Virgo is a very organized sign. Virgo judges things based on results, not intentions. So what can happen here is we might start to see a lot of things that are corrupt, a lot of things that have gone unfinished, maybe not prioritized very well, start to get corrected. You know, with Saturn going into Sagittarius, the 9th house, also about higher intelligence, also about breakthroughs, and with Virgo being a sign of health and wellness, you know, we could be seeing some breakthrough treatments come through here, whether it's, you know, who it's coming from, you know, it all depends, but it looks like it's bona fide, just the way these planets are going to be working on it. You know, so we could be seeing some breakthrough treatments in chronic illnesses like cancer, you know, AIDS, HIV. They're already getting ready to build these things up, and I think that there's probably going to be, you know, a finalization, a punctuation on that search for a treatment or search for a cure. I also think that with Jupiter going into Virgo, everyone, we're going to have a big money mentality change. Okay? And that could be good. You know, because Earth signs themselves have a proclivity to find and acquire wealth. Whether or not they become affluent or they just know how to get money when they need it, that's an Earth sign energy. Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, that is a big part of it. The 2nd, the 6th, and the 10th signs rule the 3 money areas of a chart, or the 3 primary money energies of the person's chart. We could be seeing a lot going on where we are sort of working on income equality, alright? People are starting to get paid more fairly. The job market's probably going to go through improvements. And so this is going to be a big shift for everybody because we're thinking about mutualism, alright? So, Cancer was all about the other, or the you, okay? So nurturing another person, caring about other people, nurturing the family. It's the what about you kind of sign. Does that make sense? It's like, I care about you. That's Cancer, learning how to love and empathize and share and care for other people. Leo was sort of the me. What about me? you know. And then Virgo is the we. What about we? When we look at these perhaps even in decades, we can kind of cram little decades into these as well. When we think about the you, me, and the we decades, you know, most recently, you know, this might actually be very useful, alright? So for the you decade, we're going to definitely talk about the 1970s, okay? Alright, very 70s kind of mentality with Jupiter in Cancer. You know, focusing more on the family, focusing more on the others, giving away. You know, taking a lot of what we learned, you know, through a lot of the counterculture movement, whatever was left over, whatever stood the test of time, you know, outside of sex and drugs, was all about, you know, learning how to care for one's fellow man. And there were a lot of great strides that happened at the very end of the 60s, early 70s, especially as far as civil rights is concerned. So we're focusing on being able to see and value what is outside of our immediate self. Jupiter in Leo was more like the 1980s, where we have a great deal of focus on, again, the me. A lot of people call that, not the me generation as in children who were born into it were the me generation, but the me generation as far as the young adults in that generation. A lot of focus on entrepreneurship, the yuppie era, you know. There's also a great focus on luxury. There was a great focus on self-care, on being able to properly assert boundaries when needed, you know, taking care of me and mine, and everyone do a better job of looking out for them and theirs, which are, you know, they're lessons to learn. There's also a great focus here with the 1980s, you know, kind of energy or mentality of the Jupiter in Leo on elevation, okay, improvement, promotion, self-promotion. With Virgo, it's more like the 1990s, okay? So, we focus a little bit more on the we, How do we guarantee that there's economic prosperity for more people? You know, maybe let's take our focus off the, you know, let's not just think about you or me, let's talk about us. Let's talk about how we all connect. You know, how do we integrate these things? Alright? When you think about the 1990s, you know, for the vast majority, especially in the Western world, we did not have, you know, a lot of economic disparity. You know, in the early 90s we were transitioning out of a lot of economic issues that came up from the mentality of the 80s, and we'll talk about that. You know, we were also kind of getting back to the sense of you, but we were not forgetting the me. There was a big focus on wholesomeness. There was a big sort of community focus on, you know, recreation, but also at the same time making big strides in a very Virgo way. We cracked the human genome. We perfected the internet. Well, we didn't perfect it, but we made it mainstream. Technology was starting to go through steady improvements. Once, you know, we jumped our cell phones up, you know, so there's a big focus here, you know, on a little bit more about, you know, being able to kind of step into that more intellectual, but at the very same time, you know, holistic, sort of middle of the Zodiac mentality. I would like to propose a theory about this move from Jupiter into Virgo based on a hybridization of Eastern and Western planetary attributions and elemental attributions. So I've actually included here the West and the East, as far as how these things will actually play out. In the Western astrology system, what a lot of us are used to, you know, in America and in Europe, we definitely see a lot more attributions or discussions about Jupiter, a planet of fire, going into Virgo, a sign of Earth. And we see Mercury, a sign of air, as the ruler of that Earth sign Virgo. But what can happen with this is, again, we're only looking at one side of the world, so we're not really getting an idea of how these things work. When a person gets an astrology reading from me, and how I've actually chosen to study my astrology, is taking into account and finding the harmonizations between what these things are and how they actually go into the planet themselves. In the East, Jupiter is a planet of wood. In Japan, it's Mokusei, the planet of wood. And Mercury, Suisei, is the planet of water. So, we are starting to see some interesting harmonies go on here with our elements. Now yes, in Eastern elemental systems we do not have the symbol of air, the element of air. However, we do have metal. And so that may actually, in a lot of ways metal and air have a lot alike, a lot in common, so we can just kind of substitute that there. On a broad level, yes, not on an OCD detailed level, but on a broad level. Both areas, Eastern and Western, attribute Virgo to Earth. And so we have earth, water, air/metal, wood, and fire, all being occupied when we look at this grander scope of what's going on with Jupiter moving into Virgo. It's so much more than just a fire planet moving into an earth sign ruled by an air planet. Now we've got a fire-wood planet moving into an earth sign which is ruled by an air-water planet. This is why I consider the 2015 to 2016 transit the great equalizer. Because all of these elements are now working together. And there may be some interest in how that works together, alright, or a need to understand how that works together. Okay, when Jupiter was in Leo, we had wood and fire going into fire. That's big expanse. And a lot of the energy of Jupiter in Leo, in a very positive way, again, was all about the self, expanding the self, fueling the self, using that wood energy to fuel the passions of the fire and the conviction and the action and energy to sort of grow and expand and to, to profit and to harvest. So it was very strong in that area, and there were a lot of benefits to that. Some of the drawbacks, however, had to do with the fact that Jupiter in Leo, and this typically can happen when you have wood energies go into too much fire, is you have a strong, blazing, awesome start and a weak finish. And a lot of that could be seen in society, even the astrological community. I've mentioned to people on numerous occasions, you better watch that Jupiter and Leo party you guys are all having. From July, August, September, October, it's Jupiter, Leo, Jupiter and Leo. And then sometime around when Jupiter made its first retrograde in December, we started to notice the energies change. There was no more wood to burn. The bush was burned up, so the fire started to die. And sometimes that can happen with too much fire in Leo energy, is that we tend to see a strong start, weak finish, wherever that was going. Whether it was in our career sector, our love sector, just our general selves, we have to pay attention to that. Jupiter in Virgo is the great equalizer. The great equalizer. We've got all the elements when accounting for the expanse of the craft throughout the whole world, not just half the world. We've got all the elements working at once, and therefore they will be able to keep each other under control and in harmony. When we look at the progress wheel of the Eastern elemental pentagram, wood generates fire, generates earth, generates metal, generates water, generates wood. And we have it under control as well, because we also have the culling and the cleaving. The metal destroys the wood destroys the earth, the water destroys the fire destroys the metal. So we have kind of this interesting, really nice connection of everything kind of working, beginnings and endings happening more properly. Certain aspects of people's lives aren't getting out of control. Maybe a person is stuck too much in the left brain. Now we're going to move them to the right brain, middle. And it's the middle that the harmony is. It's the middle that we want to be. It's the middle that is elevation and enlightenment. Sometimes when we have too much fire going on, or maybe the duality that started with, not started, but was really exacerbated with Jupiter, the planet of wood and fire going into Cancer 2 years ago, we had a bit of an issue with duality. With masculine, feminine, left and right, earth versus spirit, and there is really an acknowledgement of where a person could manifest their own separation. With Jupiter going into Leo, a lot of people ended up kind of struggling, almost feeling like a weird pressure to pick sides. Does it mean I can't have both? That's kind of the thing. And then Virgo's saying here, we can have all. We can have all if we choose to work in balance. And there are things that are out of balance in each one of our lives that we'll end up going through, I guess you could say, that energetic correction. But it's not going to be a correction in a very big slamming kind of way. It's not going to be an angry correction. This will be a gentle correction because a lot of these elements are keeping each other in check. So for a lot of this, we have the expansion and we have the growth, but we have it in all directions, in all areas. Again, the great equalizer, all elements working at once. Great equalizer, middle of the zodiac. Great equalizer, half and half. Being able to be rooted in Mother Earth and be connected with Spirit for the elevation and education and evolvement of all. And so there's a lot more going on. A lot more going on, especially when you take extra hemispheres in mind. Alright? So I hope you guys have found this spiel on Jupiter going into Virgo helpful. I would really appreciate it if you did go out and share this where you think that, people are available, open, and receptive to these ideas, where they can actually become, again, more elevated, where you think people are ready for this information, where you think people are, in a place where they can, kind of take it and make the most of it. I would really appreciate it. Thanks very much, everybody. I'll talk to you later.